The uncharted path. Every night after finishing my late shift at the hospital, I would drive back home through the empty streets, with nothing but the hum of my car's engine and the dim glow of my headlights to keep me company. Familiarity had embedded every twist and turn of my route in my mind, allowing me to cruise home in an almost trance-like state. One evening, however, as fatigue weighed heavily upon my eyelids, I decided to take a shortcut. A new route, supposedly quicker, whispered about among co-workers. It involved a desolate stretch of road, winding through a dense, unkempt forest. The darkness was foreboding, but I was driven by a desperate desire to reach my bed. As I ventured deeper into the forest, the thick canopy above blocked out the moonlight, making the road ahead barely visible. The feeble illumination from my headlights seemed to be absorbed by the inky blackness. I felt a chill creep up my spine, not from the cold, but from the oppressive weight of isolation. Suddenly, the radio, which had been playing soft melodies, shifted to static. I fiddled with the dials but couldn't restore the signal. Resigned to the eerie silence, I focused on the road, my knuckles white from gripping the wheel. Just as the tension in the car was reaching its peak, I spotted something in my headlights. An old, decrepit sign by the road read, "Phelan Town, 2 miles ahead." It seemed strange, as I had never heard of such a place in all my years living in the region. But thinking it might lead to a more traveled road, I decided to pass through. As I approached Phelan, it appeared frozen in time. Abandoned homes with rotting wood and broken windows lined the streets. In the town's center stood a dilapidated church, its steeple pointing crookedly to the heavens. It was as if the entire town had been deserted overnight. Suddenly, in my rearview mirror, I saw a faint light. Another car? Grateful for some semblance of civilization, I slowed down, hoping to make out the driver. But the vehicle's lights grew brighter and brighter, blindingly so, and it seemed to be approaching at an unnatural speed. Panicking, I pressed the accelerator, weaving through the ghostly streets of Phelan. But no matter how fast I went, the lights stayed right behind me. My heart pounded in my chest, every beat echoing the thoughts racing through my mind. Who are they? What do they want? I reached the town's end and saw a bridge ahead. Perhaps if I crossed it, I could lose whoever was pursuing me. But as I neared, I realized the bridge was old, its wooden planks half rotten and gaping with holes. There was no choice. I had to risk it. The car thudded over the wood, the echoing splashes of planks falling into the water below chilling me to my core. Miraculously, I made it across. Glancing back, I saw the pursuing vehicle stop at the edge of the bridge. The blinding lights dimmed, revealing an old, rusted car from a bygone era, empty and driverless. Breathing a sigh of relief, I continued driving, hoping to find my way back to the main road. But as the minutes turned into hours, I realized I was hopelessly lost. The trees seemed to close in around me, their branches scratching the car like skeletal fingers. Suddenly, a figure appeared on the road ahead. I slammed the brakes, heart in my throat. It was a woman in a white dress, her face obscured by long, dark hair. She stood motionless, staring into the void. Swallowing my fear, I called out, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" Slowly, she lifted her head, revealing empty, black eyes that seemed to consume all light. An overwhelming sense of dread washed over me as her mouth opened impossibly wide, letting out a guttural, otherworldly scream. Desperate, I reversed the car, tires screeching, and sped away. I didn't care where I was going. I just wanted to get away from that nightmare. Dawn was breaking when I finally emerged from that cursed forest, the sunlight feeling like a warm embrace. I later learned that Phelan Town had been abandoned in the late 1800s after a series of mysterious disappearances. Locals avoided the place, speaking of it in hushed tones, sharing tales of ghostly apparitions and malevolent spirits. I never took that shortcut again, and every night, as I drive the long way home, the haunting memories of that night remind me that some paths, no matter how alluring, are better left untraveled. Title: The Passenger. The monotony of the highway was only occasionally interrupted by the dim glow of a passing car or a shabby gas station. My tired eyes were fixated on the empty stretch of road ahead. The soft hum of my car's engine was oddly soothing, and the songs from the old radio provided some solace against the consuming darkness outside. It was around midnight when I noticed a hitchhiker standing on the side of the road. Dressed in a ragged coat, he held out a cardboard sign with the word North scribbled on it. I typically never picked up strangers, especially at this hour, but something within me felt a pang of sympathy. Perhaps it was the biting cold outside or the eerie desolation of this place. Pulling over, I unlocked the passenger door. He got in without a word, nodding in thanks. "Rough night to be out here," I commented, trying to break the silence. He replied, his voice a soft whisper. "It's been a long night." There was something off about him. His skin was pale, and his eyes had a distant look. But attributing my unease to paranoia, I continued driving. After a few miles, the radio started acting up. The once clear music now distorted, replaced by garbled voices. It sounded like two people arguing, their words rising in frantic desperation. "Can you hear that?" I asked, thinking perhaps it was some interference. The hitchhiker's eyes fixed on mine, cold and unblinking. They never stopped arguing, not even in death. A shiver raced down my spine. "What do you mean?" His lips curled into a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "This road you're driving on? Years ago, a couple crashed their car right around here. They argued, lost focus, and, well, they never made it home." I tried to dismiss his words as mere tales of a disturbed mind, but an unsettling feeling gnawed at me. The road seemed darker, the shadows more sinister. Suddenly, the temperature inside the car plummeted. My breath formed misty clouds, and frost began creeping over the windows. A woman's tormented scream cut through the silence, emanating from the car's speakers. Panicking, I tried to turn off the radio, but the dials wouldn't budge. From the corner of my eye, I saw the hitchhiker, his face now grotesquely warped, grinning maliciously. "Drive," he whispered, "or join them." Desperation took over. My foot pressed heavily on the accelerator. The car surged forward, the once familiar hum of the engine now replaced by a chilling wail. The shadows outside began to shift, forming ghostly apparitions of mangled cars and desperate faces pressed against the windows, their silent screams matching the ones on the radio. The hitchhiker's laughter echoed in the confined space, a sound that promised eternal torment. "They're all here," he rasped, "lost souls who ventured down this path, and soon you'll be one of them." In the distance, I could see a faint light, a bridge. Memories of local legends about a cursed stretch of road and a bridge that served as a portal back to safety flashed in my mind. I had laughed them off as campfire tales, but now they seemed hauntingly real. Summoning every ounce of courage, I steered the car towards the bridge. The apparitions grew more aggressive, trying to block my path, their mournful cries creating a symphony of despair. But I held on, keeping my gaze fixed on the beacon of light ahead. As I approached the bridge, the hitchhiker's grip on my arm tightened, his nails digging painfully into my flesh. "You can't escape," he hissed. With a final push, the car roared onto the bridge. Blinding light enveloped us, the wailing and screams replaced by a deafening silence. And then, as suddenly as it began, the ordeal was over. I was back on the familiar highway, the darkness no longer foreboding but oddly comforting. The passenger seat beside me was empty, no trace of the hitchhiker. Stopping at a gas station, still shaking from the terror, an old man approached. "You all right? Look like you've seen a ghost." I recounted my experience, expecting disbelief, but he only nodded gravely. "That stretch of road has claimed many, and that hitchhiker, he's been trying to pull souls into his abyss for years. You're lucky to have made it." The weight of his words settled heavily on me. From that day on, I avoided driving at night and never passed by that cursed stretch of road. But every time I close my eyes, the haunting laughter of the hitchhiker and the desperate cries of the lost souls echo in the darkness, reminding me of the night driving took a sinister turn.